Hey everybody, Todd Orchide here with PM Assist. For those who aren't familiar, PM Assist is my and my partner's consulting company and training company. We train on things like revenue management, profitability, automation, systems design, lots of different things. This is our first video actually on YouTube. We've had lots of content out there for a few years now that's available on our website, which is propertymanagerassist.com. But this is the first time coming to YouTube with some shorter video content. So hope everybody enjoys this. This is basically some shorter versions of the content that is available to our subscribers. Obviously, not nearly as much detail, but it kind of gives you a taste for what we do in our full courses. So anyway, we're going to get started here. Our first video and our first course in our new subscription on our website deals with a custom property management agreement. So that's what we want to discuss today. Why should you have a custom property management agreement, or PMA? Well, simply, your property management agreement should reflect your actual business practices. It shouldn't just be some generic company's contract. That's not going to be beneficial to you, because what's going to happen is you're going to have a bunch of addenda or a bunch of special stipulations to deal with how you do business. And frankly, that's just messy. It looks bad when you send that out to a client. It looks like it's an afterthought when you added a bunch of stuff to the end of this contract, because it doesn't really fit what you actually do in your company. Or worse yet, you don't put in those special stipulations, and then you're operating in a different way than that generic contract actually says you will operate, which can create all kinds of problems for you. So you want to have a custom management agreement. Of course, as you conduct business, you're going to discover all sorts of things in a generic contract that just don't fit with how you do things. You're going to want to keep those things updated, and the only way to do that is to have your own contract and not something that you get from, say, a realtors association or from the state. Of course, there's also new legislation, new case law, and then, of course, just best practices that you'll learn from watching content like this, attending conferences, being on Facebook groups with other property managers, and you're going to want to incorporate that into the way you do business, which, of course, should also be incorporated into your contract. So that's really why you need to have a custom PMA. Let's just be honest, realtors don't know property management. That's where most of these generic contracts come from. They come from realtors associations for the most part. Sometimes there's some other providers out there providing generic contracts. They're still generic. They're still not custom tailored for your operation. So we want to get away from that. We want to use a contract that actually reflects your own business. There's a few different ways you can create a custom PMA. You could just start from scratch and do it yourself. Obviously, this will make it very custom. It'll save some money, but you're still going to need legal review at the end. So, it's going to take a lot of work on your part. So this isn't, I don't think, the best way to go about it. Another way to do it is to have an attorney draft you a PMA from scratch. They can do this. It'll be a very thorough, probably very great contract if you use a good attorney. The problem is it's also going to be extremely expensive for you, because even an inexpensive lawyer is going to cost you a couple $100s an hour, and this is many hours of work. So you don't want to do that probably unless you've just got a lot of money sitting around, and that's the easiest way for you to do this without a lot of work on your part. So the way I recommend we do this is to do it starting with a generic contract like your state realtors association contract, and then modify it from there to more reflect what you do in your business. So take that boilerplate, add to it, subtract from it, edit it, do as you need to make it actually reflect your business. After you've done that, send it off to your attorneys, let them review it, give it the seal of approval before you move forward. That's how I recommend you do this to get your custom PMA. So a few custom clauses we're going to cover here. Obviously, if you take our full course, we're going to go through our management agreement line by line. Every single clause, every paragraph in that contract is going to be gone over, and you will actually get a copy of our custom PMA that you can edit and use yourself. But in this quick short video, we're only going to go over a few clauses. Obviously, any of this that you see here, you would still need to modify for your state, your locality, your operation. You need to get it reviewed by your attorneys for your market. So this is just a sample to kind of help you see some clauses that are important in a custom PMA that you might not think of. And of course, we edit this on a regular basis, so you always need to do the same and keep up to date. So first, let's talk about how the lease term provision works in our management agreement. Most management agreements, most generic ones, just assume that you're going to do, say, a 12-month agreement. That's just a standard contract, and it might be boilerplated right into the language that that's what you're going to do. We recommend against this because it doesn't give you any flexibility. You want to have a lot of authority to decide what the term of your lease should be. We generally recommend a 6 to 24-month lease term. The reason for that is it gives you a lot of flexibility in resolving disputes with a tenant. So let's say you get into a dispute with a tenant about a repair issue, for example. Let's say the owner took a long time to approve a repair. Tenant's angry. Maybe you can placate that tenant by saying, you know what, when we do your lease renewal, you want to have a 16-month lease. We're going to give that to you. And you can do that without approval from the landlord. But more importantly, what this allows you to do is it allows you to have variable lease terms all the time, not just as a special circumstance, and you can make money on that. Tenants will pay extra to be able to select their lease term. And we go over this in great detail in our revenue maxing course. But the whole idea here is, let's say a tenant wants a 14-month lease so that their lease coincides with the end of the school year when their kid is going to graduate high school. Happens all the time. We've all heard this. You want the authority to do that without having to go to the landlord, the owner, and ask for permission every time it comes up. Our philosophy here is we don't want to be going to the owner and asking for permission all the time. We want to have the authority up front to do that without asking for permission. So having a provision like this that allows you to say, we have approval for a lease term from 6 to 24 months, gives you a lot of latitude to select that lease term, and then you can let the tenant have that, charge them extra, get some extra rent for the landlord. Everybody wins. As Second Nature says, if you're familiar with that vendor, it's a triple win. That's what we're looking for. So we recommend this provision in your lease agreement. The next thing we have under the lease term, this is a subparagraph, is an automatic rent reduction when the property is listed for rent. We don't want to be going back to the owner and begging for approval to reduce the rent if the house isn't renting. If it's sat on the market for a couple weeks, we don't have a tenant in place, it's time for a rent reduction. We all know that as property managers. We have the experience to know if a property sits vacant, it needs to have the rent reduced. If you go to the landlord and you don't already have approval for this, then all too often, as many of you know, they're going to slow roll you. They're going to say, no, let's hold off for a while. I'd really like that higher rent. Let's just avoid that from the very beginning by getting this provision in your contract that says we can automatically reduce the rent. And we have it in here, you see in this provision twice. At 14 days and 21 days, we have authority to reduce the rent. So that is going to help you to get the property rented, but that also helps the landlord. You might not think so, but we all know as property managers that a house that sits vacant is an unproductive asset, and we don't want that. We want to get it rented. Then termination while vacant. So, this only goes into this one provision of the termination section of our management agreement. Our full course goes into all the different provisions dealing with termination, but this is termination while the property is vacant. This comes up all the time. You'll get a landlord who either forgot to give notice before the lease terminated. Let's say you have a 2 months notice provision, the landlord forgot. Or let's say you open a new owner, and then 2 weeks later, they change their mind and decide, you know what, I've decided to sell the house. Meanwhile, you've already done a bunch of work to get this property onboarded and listed. You want to make sure you're getting paid for that work you've done. So we have a provision in our management agreement that says if the owner terminates while the property is vacant, there is a termination fee for that. So this is over and above any other normal termination fee you have in your contract. In this case, you'll see we're charging $500. Maybe it's a different amount for your market, but make sure that you're getting paid in this circumstance. You don't want to be doing work and not getting compensated for it. Then lastly, a transfer of an owner-held security deposit. Do not, under any circumstances, let owners hold their own security deposits. No matter what, you should be holding the deposit. So if you take over a property that already has a security deposit, already has a tenant in place, your management agreement should say that the owner is required to transfer that to you within 30 days. Otherwise, you're going to take that out of the rent income and put it in escrow for the security deposit. Don't be in a situation where you're not holding a security deposit. So that's it for today's quick 10-minute video. If you want more information, please go to our website at www.propertymanagerassist.com. We have our full fee maxing value bundle there that goes through about 75 or 80 different fees that we charge. We have a resident benefits package course, a marketing course, and our new course is our PM Assist Insider. And that is a subscription course where we do 2 new pieces of content every month on the 10th and 25th of every month, about an hour of content each time. We're starting off with our management agreement, then we'll do our lease, we'll go into a bunch of new fees, processes, automation. If you want to improve your business and you don't have the money to spend on a one-on-one consultant, this is a great way for you to get video consulting at a bargain price. So check us out at our website, subscribe to us here on YouTube and all the other social media channels, and we look forward to talking to you some more later.